Hi, Avi Freedman with some old friends and new friends at Networking Field Day. And just as a final wrap up, we're going to talk a little bit about what our focus is and what it is not going forward. So was just talking about APM, NPM. There's a lot of things one could do. It's all just software on data. But one of the things we're not planning on doing is really integrating deep down into the old style APM, Java stacks, Go stacks, PHP. But the way people are moving is to send instrumentation out of the app layer that we think can be combined with the infrastructure layer to provide a lot of benefit. So we maintain a negative roadmap, which is the things we're not planning on doing, which is helpful for customers, where we can provide them advice about, should I use Knuckle or Zabbix or Xenos, or how do I ping things and service maps? We're not trying to be a generic logging platform. We're not doing APM deep instrumentation. We're not doing Wi-Fi protocol decodes or SAN protocol decodes. It's just part of where we're focusing now. If we have 20 customers pop up, those are all things we can do. But we're trying to be even IGP analytics as people are trying to tune some of their networks. I would point you to packet design for that, now Sienna. So we try to be a curator of things because it really is a rich stack, and I don't think we're going to have the mythical pane of glass. A lot of the flow logs came out of the SIM side, which as an operations person, I generally think of the machines that go bing and have more data in it than anyone will ever look at. But on the other hand, some of our systems are not as useful for forensics because our customers don't want to be woken up for things that are just noise, which is why, so you're still going to have a system that you can go to catch things. We're part of workflows. We're not trying to run workflows. It's been interesting to see how NetBrains going on there from topology to workflow. So we just look at it and say, how do we integrate with the best of those things? And from our focus, it's Azure has a couple different ways of getting data. Flow logs are like Amazon, pretty delayed, but Network Tap can be live and even better potentially than what Google's done. Streaming telemetry, does anyone have that in production? You can get data, put it somewhere, but to actually, it doesn't have all the IFMIB type data. All the streaming telemetry people realize pretty quickly, it's awesome to get everything, but you need some semantic context. So MIBs are maybe not so horrible after all. But at the same time, it is a direction people want to go. So how does that work? That's definitely an next year thing. We have customers doing it, but it's not turn off SNMP. And then P4 and integrated network telemetry and all that, I think it's going to happen, but it's not going to be for sure in the first half of next year. So it's labs working with customers, and a lot of it is focused on the people that we've seen that are really trying to drive things forward, and how do we integrate the monitoring tools that we get a lot more benefit for the service providers and enterprise we work with there than just talking about scraping an appliance and trying to do it. So it's the interesting world of evolving the whole stack, not just what Kentik's doing, that we think is exciting into next year. One thing I'll point out, microsegmentation, obviously hot. You can actually take a lot of that policy data, we call it tags, but as I mentioned before, the more provisioned your infrastructure is, the easier it is to do the security side of that. Because everything that isn't tagged, that isn't something that you know, becomes something that you should send off to the security folks. And then we talked about the Kentik portal. A lot of what we do doesn't really require us to deploy at the edge, but streaming telemetry is an interesting case because a lot of devices are sending uncompressed, self-describing JSON from the edge from all your metrics 30 times a second. That quickly overwhelms the actual infrastructure. So unlike Flow, where it's typically been sampled. So some level of proxying and augmentation and pushing the streaming analytics out to the edge is something that our customers are saying, as with where they want to go directionally, we'll have to do. So that's something that we are working on. And then CDN, load balancer, we're starting to see my religious quest to get performance data from the chipsets and the switches and routers. Maybe we should just give that up and get it from the layer above and tie it together. So from a vision perspective, that's what we're trying to do, is put it all together and then be the best platform for people to use who are specialized in making the world behind the network API go, but then provide as much visibility as useful to the other groups, even though I think a lot of that will still come in their their core platforms. We've had a Grafana API forever, lets people put it together, but it's not joining the semantics of it. So it's how do we get the semantics of it so application people can say, yes, there is a problem. And increasingly, we're seeing groups that do want to work together, their platforms don't. So that's a lot of what we're thinking and working on. And I don't think we have defined answers for every element of it, but this is what we're working with customers towards and building into the product. So with that, we're down to our last 1 minute. And any questions, comments, flames, you can try it yourself. You can go to kentik.com and sign up. We have a landing page with some info. We have cool swag, screwdriver socks, t-shirts. Mostly we just like working with people that are doing fun things and showing them Kentik, but always happen to engage however people would like.
How does the licensing work?
So licensing on the cloud side matches how the cloud people view, which is generally by gigabytes generated. Sometimes that can be pretty expensive because they don't sample, so we get more into the host side, and then it's if you're doing tons of typically servers, it's again by sort of traffic volume, and for service providers, they tend to think of it more on per device. So it's a yearly fee. In the cloud side, you can subscribe monthly, and we'll be in the cloud marketplaces this month, so people can sign up that way too.
Perfect, thank you.
The negative roadmap slide, that was perfect.
We try to update it. In fact, there's a thing on here I didn't point out. I actually think, anyone heard of serverless? Mm-hmm. It's like carless driving Uber, right?
Lambdas.
So yeah, nebulous. So there's definitely going to be some parts where the infrastructure people are going to be blamed, but not have a lot of visibility. But I've always had a problem with synthetic measurement that isn't tied to what your traffic actually is, because you get a bunch of alerts that may not impact you. So we used to say we just want to integrate, we'll do something. We haven't found someone good to integrate with. We'd happy to integrate with Thousand Eyes. I'll call them out, but they don't want to. So we'll probably be forced to do something which is actually testing based on what the traffic is and doing synthetic measurement, which can be a little difficult. So we try to be focused on that because as a startup, you can easily drive to distraction by trying to do too much. So.